to an Easter Vigil. Peter Burke was the presider. You guys know Peter Burke. And at this time, he got up to the pulpit and said, "Time for intermission." But no, we're not going to take an intermission. What I want to talk about is an incident that happened when I was still in initial formation with the Carmelites. And I was teaching chemistry at one of our high schools in Arizona as an intern. Internship is sometime in your seminary training you do apostolic years to get a feel for what the ministry is like outside the seminary. So I was teaching at South Point Catholic High School. And we had a visitor who came to stay with us a day named Bonaventure or Joe Gilmore. And what Joe was doing is, he was in his 80s now and had cancer. Earlier, 20 years earlier, when he was in his 60s, he had that cancer and had fought it back, chemo, etc., had gone into remission and had 20 good years, and now it had recurred. So the doctors wanted to do chemo again, but he said, in my 80s, what am I going to gain? So instead, what he did is he got in the car and he drove to every place he'd been assigned to say goodbye to these places, say goodbye to Carmelites he knew. And he was at table that night, and I sat next to him. And so he was kind of an interesting guy. He had been the first principal of that high school when the Carmelites took it over. So he was the first principal. And he knew a lot about the school, about the faculty, about the big donors, about its history. Very interesting. And then I think he taught biology because he was like an amateur or even a professional ornithologist. He knew about all the birds and the flora and the fauna of that area. Just a fascinating guy. He had served in the missions, he had done parish work, he had served in many high schools. And so the meal had long ended, and I'm still listening to him because I find him very interesting. Finally, I look at my watch, and it's after midnight. And I go, oh no, I've got to teach tomorrow. So I tell Joe, excuse me, that's enough talking. I've got to go to my room now, because I still have to do lesson plans. It's after midnight. And so I went to my room, excused myself and went to my room. I was in my room only a few minutes when there was a knock on the door. So I opened the door, and there's Father Bonaventure, Father Joe, carrying a box. And he says, I want you to have these. And it was filled with like clergy shirts, black shirts, and some regular shirts. But he says, you're kind of my size, and I won't be needing these anymore. And so, for kindness shown to an old man, by allowing him to tell his stories one more time, I want you to have this. Then he took the ring on his finger and pulled it off and said, I want you to have this also, because I don't want it buried with me. This ring has gone through most of my Carmelite life, and I don't want it buried with me. And I protested, no, I don't want your ring, I don't want your ring. But he left, went to his room. The next morning I got up. He had already left to go on to his next spot. So after school, I said, well, let me look at that ring. And I concluded, it's ugly. It was one ugly ring. It was, kind of gray, dull gray. There was a Carmelite shield kind of emblem on it, but it was all crusted in grime and dirt and stuff like that. It had scratches and a big dent on the backside. I put it on, and the dent dug into my skin. And I said, well, put it away. I just put it away. Thank you, Joe. Years go by. I return to studies here, finish initial formation, am ordained, am serving in a parish in New Jersey. And I'm looking for something. I can't remember what I'm looking for. I'm going through stuff. And I open this box, small box, and there's Joe's ring. So I pull it out. And I'm thinking, the president of the parish council in that parish is a jeweler in town. He has a jewelry store right on the main street. I'm going to give him this ring and see if he can make it fit me. So I go and he looks at the ring and says, it's a cheap ring. It'd be easier to make one just like it than to try to size this one, because it would have to be cut and opened up a little bit and a little insert put in and all. He says, that's a lot of work. It'd be easier just to make a new one for you. I said, well, no, this one has some sentimental value. Can you fix this one? So he said, I see what I can do. He calls me 2 weeks later and says, it's ready, come on in. So I go to the store and he hands me a box. And I open the box and the ring is beautiful. The ring is beautiful. It startled me because I wasn't expecting it. The ring is no longer gray, it's bright silver catching the sun. The Carmelite shield is no longer grime covered, it's gold and glistening. And the scratches are there, but you can barely see them now. The dent is gone. It is beautiful. And in many ways, that ring, I think, describes for me what resurrection is all about. That ring describes resurrection. The way I look at resurrection is just like that. You know, if God wanted Jesus or wanted us to be beautiful, complete beings right here, right now, he wouldn't have made us humans. He would have made us angels instead. But no, we have to go through this life journey. Jesus had to go through this life journey. And it's in this life journey that we get scratched and we get dented. We get scourged. We get crowned with thorns. We get crucified at times also. But for some reason, I think that's what is the beauty of it all. That ring was beautiful. But it wasn't just beautiful in itself. It was beautiful because it had such history. It had gone through decades of mission work and school work and parish work. It was beautiful plus, because it was more beautiful because of its history. And I think it's the same with Jesus. And it's the same with us. It's our lives. It's our sometimes scourging, whipping, being crowned with thorns, crucifixions. They give us the meaning, give us the value. They give us the beauty plus that makes resurrection so much more valuable than just being beautiful alone. Jesus goes into the tomb, having been scourged, comes out. The wounds are there, but barely seeable now. Having been crowned with thorns, comes out now. The wounds are there, not readily seen. Crucified. The wounds are there. Yes, Thomas, put your hand in these nail marks. They're there, but they're changed. They are what is adding the beauty to Jesus' life. And I think that's why we do this journey. Because it's that which makes it valuable. Like Jesus says, if you love only those who love you, what merit is there in that? Don't the tax collectors do as much? Can you love your enemies? Can you bless your persecutors? That is valuable history. That's what makes our resurrection beautiful. And I think it's not just, we heard tonight, salvation history, the land, the people, Israel, going from problem to problem, the sacrifice of Abraham's son, almost, the slavery in Egypt, the return to idolatry, the loss of wisdom. But each of these is healed, restored, redeemed, forgiven. But they made the people who they are and made them a richer, deeper, or profound people. And I think that's what made Christ who he is. Resurrection is not enough. When we celebrate Easter, resurrection is not enough. We need to celebrate passion, crucifixion, and resurrection. Because that's what makes resurrection beautiful, meaningful, and deep. I think St. Paul says this. My favorite Easter reading is not proclaimed today, but I will proclaim it now. It's Philippians. And Philippians are, if you're being scourged, if you're being crucified, if you're being crowned with thorns, your life is not, if you're in sorrow or in sadness, anything, turn to Philippians. It is a profoundly beautiful letter. And it will get you through a lot and give you insights a lot. Because I think St. Paul gets the same idea, that it's the beauty of the pain, the scourging, the sorrow, that adds the value to resurrection. Chapter 3, he has a prayer for himself. I think it's a prayer for all of us. He writes, all I want is to know Christ and to experience the power that flows from his resurrection and be conformed to his suffering so that I can be changed in the resurrection of the dead. So now, forgetting what is past and what lies behind, and looking forward to only what lies ahead, I press forward to that prize, which is Christ Jesus on high. Amen.